Hello. Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the court of the Edijester. How are we, good people? Let's get started. Before we do, become more a teacher, buy me a coffee. Anything you can do to keep me going would be really appreciated right now, because I want to keep going. Now, yesterday we did a bit on Becky Francis, do you remember? And what I perceived to be a puzzlement, no less, right? So today we got something that kind of follows up from that and is related to education. And it's in relation to the therapeuticizing of education. Now, those of you that watched my videos before will know that this is something that I'm deeply concerned about. I don't want the therapeutic and the psychological anywhere near education. Now, I'm a hard-nosed swine when it comes to this one. But so I was particularly interested to see an article from the Daily Mail, which I've then followed up on by looking at. So again, today, what we've got is an article for you that's on Twitter and on Substack that you can engage with. So read the article. Read the article, watch the video, let me know what you think, because obviously that's what I want to hear is what you think. But what is going on here? Because there's something I'm very uncomfortable with. And I'd like you to tell me whether or not you think I've got a foundation in that discomfort. Because what I'm seeing, and this is what worries me greatly, is the watering down of education. I was thinking about how can we see this? Well, do we want the education of Mr. Chips from Goodbye, Mr. Chips, played by Robert Donat, going back a long time ago? Probably. Some bits of it, we'd like some bits of it. What don't we want? Well, do we really want the education of the vile, grasping Miss Brodie, who completely misdirects her pupil and creates a cult of personality around herself? No, we don't want that either. Do we want the sickly, individualized, weepy, emotional teaching of Robin Williams in the Dead Poets Society? No, thanks very much. We don't. Do we want the teaching of Frank in Educating Rita, played by the delicious Michael Caine, with, of course, Julie Walters? Yes. Yes, we do. Please, we'll have some more of that. And do we want the realistic, grounded education perceived through the figure of Sidney Poitier's teacher into Sir with Love? And the answer is yes. Yes, we do. So I find this particular occurrence of something very disturbing, and that something is called EBSA. And it's being sold as compassionate support, but it's wrapped up in the language of neurodiversity, which you know as well as I do is pure queer theory. It's actually a dangerous dilution of educational rigor. Now, emotionally based school avoidance, which is what EBSA stands for, is basically the kids that don't want to go to school. And what this is attempting to do is to lump everybody into the same situation. See, this is where I'm concerned about Becky Francis and her inclusivity. But this is the absolute overreach of a number of councils in that they're telling teachers that they have to follow a list of ideas. In particular, the one that stood out to me is don't ask these kids any questions. In other words, they come to the class, but you can't ask them questions because they've got EBSA or whatever the hell it is they're calling it. So these children might now need to go and, do something else. Now, there are children who need the most individualized help. And the notion of something like EBSA, which sounds to me like somebody's created a job for themselves, the notion of EBSA, which has been around since about 2018, and the notion of neurodiversity detract from the individualized needs of children with SEND, special educational needs and development, or who have, for some reason, a requirement for specific individualized care. There is no one model that fits all, but yet this is what they're attempting to do. And it is unfortunately sold on the back of equity, but the vicious end of equity, where everybody will be forced to put up with the behaviour of pupils who A, struggle to be in mainstream schools, or B, shouldn't be there at all, or C, are just simply playing up because they're bad kids. Right? That's naughty, isn't it? There are no bad kids. They're just kids that need a lot more help than others, right? Some of that will be disciplinary, some of it will be therapeutic. Neither of those things, discipline or therapeutic, are the purview of the school. Discipline in school, now that you can't thwack the little buggers by putting them over the horse, they used to do that with me, give them the dap. Now that we don't do that anymore, discipline in schools really only boils down to one or two things, doesn't it? go to the exclusion room or we'll exclude you completely. Well, I'm a fan of the latter. Because I think that there are a lot of children, particularly in secondary school, not so interested in primary. Primary, they're tiny enough. You could just hang them on a peg and leave them until they calm down, right? So, but when it comes to secondary school, it's a different story because you get big strapping blokes that won't behave. Bruisers of a kid, right? That's the problem we've got. And I'm much more in favour of them going to work, for example, get them in the workplace, or that they have individualised teaching elsewhere. I don't want them in the mainstream of schools if they're a problem. That's because I don't want to interfere with might, meritocracy, intelligence, talents, and excellence. It's not because I don't give a damn about those kids. I do. I just don't think that lumping them with everybody else is helpful. And as you'll see in my article, I've got an example of that from Gateshead Council, where there's a list of what they call reasonable adjustments. Because what they're doing is they're classing this behaviour, ESBA, as a disability, even though it does not reach the threshold for a disability at all, as based in the lawful definition in the Equality Act by the UK government. So they're saying, well, actually, we have to do this, otherwise we'll get sued under the Disability Act. It's a recipe for disaster. So in other words, ESBA is in fact, along with neurodivergent, a container into which they put kids who they deem poorly, not capable of doing it right, or that kids can jump into just by simply misbehaving. It's a disaster waiting to happen. It's another container to collapse categories, for example, of a child with autism who needs help in a particular region, ADHD, whatever that may be, or any other disability, which may be physical. Those children that need individualized care can then be lumped into one container. And then that container could be said to contain the solution. And they've given a list of reasonable adjustments that they think are a solution, which you can see in the article. But let me just give you a flavour of some of them, because it's quite frankly unbelievable. Reasonable adjustments that can have a positive outcome for kids. Bearing in mind, these kids are in mainstream school, they're going to be in the classroom. Changes in the individual's uniform. So they're allowed to wear different uniform from everybody else. Staggered school start times and finish times. So they're going to stagger the school start times and finish times for this kid. Really? Code word signal that the pupil can use when they need a comfort break. Utter nonsense. Knowing triggers and noticing a change in the pupil's body language and knowing how to respond to that change. Nope. No. What you're going to do with a classroom of 30 kids? Do this? Really? Use of ear defenders or headphones to block out noise. No. Sunglasses for light sensitivity. Rubbish. Fiddle toy, calm box. This is nonsense. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand perfectly where some of these interventions are absolutely needed in specialist educational settings. What I'm saying is that this equity-driven inclusivity, which Becky Francis, by the way, seems to be wholly behind, it's the only thing I seem to disagree with her on, right? That is not good for everybody else. It's equity. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. The list goes on, right? Interventions to facilitate friendships. Really? So teachers are going to interfere in the social groups of kids so that they can make friends with people they don't necessarily want to. This is appalling. Social engineering. Appalling. Absolutely appalling. There are only two questions. Are you going to school to learn? And are you ready to learn? Which every parent, every guardian, every carer, every child, every day must ask themselves. And if the answer to either of those two questions, are you ready to go to school and are you ready to learn? If one of them is no, then it has nothing to do with the school. Schools are there to teach. They are not there to sing Kumbaya and justify therapeutic interventions by people who have absolutely no business being in education in the first place. Or I'm a nut job. And I've got the article for you to read so that you can decide. I'm fascinated by this. And I hope that you will be too. So please do go have a look and let me know what you think. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.